Ti West's X Trilogy just came to a close, but which movie is the best? Welcome to the channel, I'm Buster Brown, here to offer the casual and hardcore movie fans a perspective on cinema. Today, doing a ranking of Ti West's X Trilogy, which masterfully blends horror and suspense, following the chilling and interconnected tales of characters entangled in macabre and shocking events that span decades. Now, you know the drill with these ranking videos, I try to keep spoilers minor. I don't want to spoil the whole movie for you guys if you haven't seen it, but if you have seen the movies, you'll know what I'm talking about when I'm implying certain things. This is not a deep analysis. In fact, if you're interested in a deep analysis, I highly recommend Tales from the Shelf's videos on the X Trilogy. I think he does a really good job at diving into each of these movies and explaining their themes and motifs and what makes them special as well as what makes them fun. I've never met this guy, just a fan. Thought I would give him a shout out. If you're interested, the link to his channel will be in the description. But enough of my babbling, let's get into the ranking of Ti West's X Trilogy. Starting off with number 3, we have MaXXXine, which is the thrilling conclusion to Ti West's X Trilogy following MaXXXine's relentless pursuit of fame in 1980s Los Angeles amid a backdrop of violence and deception. Now, I will start off by saying I really like all of these movies, and I think they're more or less at the same level with me, so picking my favorite is almost like picking my favorite child in a sense. However, I will say MaXXXine for me is the clear last place for me, and it almost wasn't. You see, I think Mia Goth, who plays the main character of MaXXXine, she does a great job of being this sort of strong but still very feminine character that's also incredibly flawed and borderline psychopathic at times, and they do a lot of fun stuff to play with her trauma that happened in X, taking and exploring her characters in new and interesting ways. I think what makes MaXXXine's journey so fun to follow is that it's a little bit of an inverse from X, and she starts out as a porn star that's trying to get away from that line of work because she's sort of realizing the downsides that comes with it, how the long-term longevity of that career isn't necessarily the best for her, and she's trying to get acting in a horror movie, which is funny because in X, they're trying to shoot a porno. She's trying to get into porn, but then it turns into a horror movie, and now she's a porn star trying to be in horror, which is kind of fun. What I really like about this plot too is that it sets up intrigue as well. It's a murder mystery. Someone's stalking MaXXXine, someone's killing her friends, her peers, her co-workers, and they're after her, and we don't know why they're after her, and there feels like there's a nice selectable group of suspects so you can theorize throughout the movie. They also have some good messages, I'd say, about how Hollywood is just incredibly brutal and the work you have to put in order to make it in Hollywood, the sacrifices you have to make to your personal life. And they also do cool things because it's taking place in Hollywood as well. They actually shoot at the set where Psycho was shot. Seeing that set again was a little bit nostalgic for me because one of my favorite horror movies, or suspense thrillers if you'd rather call it, is Psycho by Alfred Hitchcock. Highly recommend you watch it if you haven't yet. And it also just takes place in the 80s, which is super fun for me. I have a very nostalgic feeling towards that time, despite not being alive in that time. I'm doing an 80s action movie tournament on the Film Fights podcast. Once again, link in the description. I also really liked Kevin Bacon's performance in this movie, playing a private investigator, John Labbitt. He does such a good job as being this douchey guy who's employed by somebody, don't want to spoil it, and he's sarcastic, but he's also getting very into his job. He's also kind of evil, and I think that character Kevin Bacon plays really well. I always botch this guy's name, so I apologize in advance. Giancarlo Esposito is in this movie, playing MaXXXine's lawyer in the entertainment business, and he is just always such an entertaining presence, whatever he's in, whether it's Breaking Bad or The Mandalorian. But what I think makes this particular performance nice for me, I watched this with cousin Kyle from the podcast, and he was telling me it's nice seeing him in a role where he's more energized and he's playing a little bit of a different character. Sure, he's still in charge of things, he's still high up, he's still engaging in illegal activities, but it's a different look for him, and he plays that performance really well. And he's also just a great seasoned actor, and I love seeing him in stuff whenever he shows up. The movie is also shot incredibly well. They have a lot of great close-ups. They have a lot of beautiful lights representing that 80s fun very well. It does a great job with its production design and camera lenses, with its shallow depths of field and emphasizing important moments with framing to make it feel special, disturbing, all of the things that you want from a horror movie, despite not maybe being as horrifying as the other two movies. But unfortunately, what makes this the clear loser for me is that I feel the last act was botched. Not botched, but fumbled to a certain extent. There's a lot of sort of moving pieces at the beginning of the movie where they're setting up these payoffs. And when you get to the last act, it moves in a direction that feels unsatisfying and weirdly predictable and also unpredictable at the same time, where I'm like, oh, I don't think they do that. And then they did it, and then it went in a weird direction. I thought it was messy. I thought that there was some edited sequences of MaXXXine jumping to the future from the last act and then jumping back to the past that just felt a little bit not well thought out as much as I think it should be. I also thought that the last shot, which was meant to be sort of symbolic, and I think it is once again kind of an inverse of what happens at the end of X, but I don't fully understand the symbolism of what they're going for throughout that entire last act. And I did just see this movie, so I haven't fully digested it. Maybe once I ruminate on it, talk to my friends about it, I think maybe it will make more sense. But as of now, it just felt like I don't know exactly what they're going for. It feels messy. It feels rushed. It feels like they didn't know how to stick the landing on this trilogy. It wasn't horrible. I was still engaged while watching it. It's just a shame that they didn't wrap it up in a neat bow that felt cathartic, to me at least. Now, I'm about to get into our number 2, but I just first wanted to say, if you have not liked, commented, or subscribed in my channel, just do one of the 3 for me. I would really appreciate it. Small channel, trying to grow. I enjoy reading your comments and perspectives and your feedback, whether you agree with me or don't agree. Sincerely, I'm trying to build a community of movie lovers, both casual and hardcore. You could be part of the solution, so if you would like to comment down below, I personally would really appreciate it. Moving on to number 2, we have X, which is a gripping horror film by Ty West that follows a group of filmmakers who descend into rural Texas to shoot an adult film, only to find themselves fighting for their lives against a sinister force. I probably won't talk about X as much as MaXXXine. I didn't really drop a review on it, so I thought this was my opportunity to do so. And I think it's often debated whether X or Pearl is better, generally the consensus being led towards X being the better film. And once again, these two movies are neck and neck for me. However, I just think X is a little bit less good than Pearl, which is saying a lot because I love slasher movies. I think they are so fun. I am a big Friday the 13th buff. I'm wearing a Nightmare on Elm Street shirt as we speak. And I think what's also cool about X is that it elevates the slasher genre and adds in some interesting and intriguing commentary about the nature of young and old squandering your opportunities, what those opportunities might look like in the future, being old and decrepit. And they just do a really smart thing with the plot where they're basically in the movie shooting a porno. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, if that's gonna strike me in the algorithm, but whatever. And the director of this porno wants to make this sort of elevated experience. And all of the people in the shooting the movie are like, bro, they don't really care about the nuanced plot. They're not there for the plot. They just want to see two people doing the devil's tango. That's all they really care about seeing. And it's interesting when you compare that to the fact that this is a slasher horror movie, the most low of the low, B-movie appeal type of movie, where it's also a lot about just seeing the busty ladies maybe popping some stuff out. And so I just think that them trying to make an elevated horror movie and having this meta commentary about porn in general is also pretty funny when you really think about it, while still also keeping that fun slasher element, the reason why you like slashers. I mean, they have a crocodile in this movie kill someone. Clearly, they're not taking things too seriously, but just seriously enough that it's creepy, disturbing. And what I like is that you have an old lady as a slasher, which is kind of, I don't want to say it's new. Obviously, there's Mrs. Voorhees, Pamela Voorhees from Friday the 13th, and other examples as well. But I think that the way that they did it in this one, where she's someone who sort of longs for that lifestyle, that very heightened sexual lifestyles that was present in the early 70s, is interesting to me. It kind of shows where this type of desire leads to eventually when you can't have that anymore. It's really cool that Mia Goth plays not only MaXXXine in this movie, and she does a great job there, but probably even a better job as Pearl, the old lady killer. And there's tons of really fun kills in this movie, tons of really funny gags that they play with, the 70s porno aesthetics, just the 70s aesthetic as well. This movie is incredibly shot with the types of lenses they use, adding in film grain. I think it's very reminiscent of the vibes from the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, at least to me. We see Jenna Ortega as Lorraine, which leads to some interesting commentaries between her and her boyfriend. You got Kid Cudi as Jackson Hole. There are so many funny gags with him. I thought he did an amazing job. Overall, I think that the movie is just a great slasher that hits all of the right notes in a fun and unique way. I think what holds it back for me a little bit is there's not that wow, super memorable moment where I'm like, that's the scene. That's the cool part. I think it's just missing something like that. Doesn't mean it's a bad movie. In fact, it is a great movie. But I only bring that up because our number one is Pearl, which is a haunting prequel to Ty West's X, delving into the twisted origins of its titular character as she grapples with dark desires and her dreams of stardom on her family's isolated farm. Pearl has that moment that I was just talking about, that moment where I was like in awe, totally gripped, like that is it. And that is a performance near the end of the movie where she goes on this very long monologue about all of her sins and her murders that she's committed throughout this movie, and her talking about her being sick, where she's just crying and the camera stays on her for a long time without cutting. For me, as someone who loves film, also enjoying a lot of casual stuff, admittedly, but loves film at the same time, it just pulled me in. What a powerful scene. And I love how this movie follows someone who is just so flawed and so crazy. It's like Joker meets a Hallmark movie with Wizard of Oz aesthetics, where it's this twisted version of a Hallmark movie almost, where you have this character that dreams of moving off into the city life, being a star, being a singer, being a dancer, finding a guy that she can be with that's not like her loser boyfriend or whatever that she feels. That's the archetype for a lot of these things. But she's an evil, deeply sick person in the brain. She tries to get the guy, and she tries to go and sing and dance, and she tries to be part of that stereotype that was popular in that time period. And it just doesn't work out for her. And when she gets frustrated, she lashes out quite violently. And you have the best performance that we've got out of Mia Goth, who's already given stellar performances. And I think this is her best one that I've seen. You also have Superman, or soon to be Superman, David Cornsett playing the projectionist. And he does a good job showing how he's initially attracted and then maybe being a little appalled. You have Emma Jenkins playing as this character, Mitzi, who is the Hallmark character that this movie seems like it should have been about, who would have got those dreams, who would have made it to the next level. That is a sweetheart because she's got that X factor that Pearl doesn't have, that she wants so bad. This movie is charming and disturbing, at least at the same time. It's so fun for me to see, as I said, Wizard of Oz aesthetics with something this dark, and they shoot it that way too. It's like everything weaves together for me, where it's this simple story, but there's so much substance in there at the same time. And I was watching it with my jaw on the floor the whole time. We're waiting for things to go bad. I understand why people like X more, why people think it's the better movie. It's certainly a more fun movie, and on any given day, I might change. But for right now, Pearl is my favorite of Ty West's X trilogy. And hey, that's the video. If you made it to the end, once again, I would love for you to comment down below and tell me your thoughts on Ty West's X trilogy. And if you'd like to see me rank anything else, currently I am working on my X-Men franchise ranking that will come out around the same time Deadpool 3 comes out. So be looking forward to that. I really want to hear from you guys. I really want to build a community. And if you could help me do that, I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you later.